NYC, Envite Health, the luxury brand of vitamins.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Did you know that 70% of your skin...
Hi, and welcome to Caregiver Solution Info Show. I'm Marcia Teele, and I'm so glad that you're here and with us today. We have another wonderful program for caregivers. This is the show that was especially created for caregivers, and it is a great resource for you to learn and to test out a lot of the information, a lot of the tips, a lot of the challenges that you have can be better with information and knowledge. So today we're going to be talking to an expert when it comes to adult daycare. Now, many of you back in the day may have utilized daycare services for your children if you worked, after school programs, but there is an adult daycare program in many areas that can help you. And a lot of people don't even know that exists or what it involves, how to tap into it, what to ask the questions about it. So we're going to be talking to an expert who manages an adult daycare. And we are also going to be talking to a caregiver who utilized adult care center for her significant other. So joining me today is Julie Tambari. Julie is the administrator of New Day Adult Care Center. It's owned and operated by Faith Lutheran Church, and it's located in North Palm Beach, Florida. Hi, Julie, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info Show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. I first want to ask you, I've known you for a long time. How many years have you been managing the New Day Adult Care Center?
Well, that's easy because I was hired when I was 7 months pregnant with my son. So he's 14, almost 15.
So you've been there a long time, and
Yes.
I know that you have been so wonderful to caregivers and helping them make some kind of transition from one type of care to another type of care and making them feel at ease. And you've been there a long time, so you have lots of experience helping caregivers with their loved ones. And so we're going to be talking about adult care today, what it means, what you can tell us about the ins and outs of it, because this is just a wonderful platform for caregivers to learn. So the first thing I'd like to ask you from your experience, when would someone, like as a caregiver or maybe an adult child, when would they consider adult daycare for their loved one?
Well, there's lots of reasons to consider adult daycare, but I would say the biggest issue, well, for working caregivers, for someone who is not safe to be home alone anymore, and when families have to go to work or go to their own personal appointments and aren't able to take people with them, or they just need a break from the day-to-day caregiving, that is when you need to consider adult daycare. Also, some people aren't really in that circumstance, but they see that their mom or dad or husband or wife is just sitting home and watching TV and or doing nothing or mulling around the house and feeling a little purposeless. And I think that that's one thing that adult daycare can really do for people is give them some reason to come out of the house. It's like you had a job your whole life or you had purpose your whole life and now you're home doing nothing. What will bring that back for you? We're very social beings. We talked about that before. And being around other people impacts you in many different ways and engaging your brain and your body and all that. So that's kind of what date programs are for. And that is why that the reason to go look is multifaceted. But I would say, again, anybody who needs a safe place to go during the day, adult daycare could be your answer.
Okay. So I heard you say it's good for people that work when someone can't be left alone. and they
Yes.
want to be sure that their loved one is in a safe environment, a safe, nurturing environment. I also heard you say it's good for people that maybe don't have enough engagement during the day. They sit around a lot and they're not active. What about a caregiver who cares for someone, especially someone that has dementia, and they've sort of hit bottom? They're at the end of their rope as far as trying to take care of somebody at home, and their nerves are frazzled. Would that be a scenario where they might consider adult day center also?
Definitely. It gives you, listen, we're open, most day programs are open 10 hours a day. It can give you 10 hours of a break to rejuvenate yourself. So you can go to an adult daycare one day, you can go 5 days. It's really whatever works for the individual. So to know that you have that break and that time to just think and recoup or rest or get your errands done, and that they're in a place that they're safe and happy is extremely important to caregivers so that they can continue being caregivers. And the break can be in different ways. Some people want adult daycare, and some people might want home care, and some people might say, you know what, it's time for assisted living. But this adult daycare tends to be like a really good bridge for the assisted living. They're starting to spend time away from their caregivers, so it's not as traumatic when that happens if they need to move to an assisted living or another living situation. So it tends to get people feeling happier in the moment. Almost everybody loves coming to a daycare. Not in the beginning. That's usually a little bit rough, but then they usually will love to come to the adult daycare. But it does help them, the caregiver, get the break that they need, and the person themselves get really what they need, which is some social engagement and nourishment and healthcare and all those things.
Well, sometimes I think you call them clients. Sometimes your client, they might need a break from the caregiver too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I just think about like when you have done your own thing for several years, even as a married couple, and anytime you live in the same house with someone all the time, 24/7, it's you need a break from each other, no matter what, no matter who it is.
Yep.
And having any type of cognitive impairment or any type of medical issue where the caregiver has to be there for safety and provide the care, you just feel like you're on all the time, and you never like feel at rest. Even when they're sleeping, you're on because you have to make sure you don't hear them get up, and if they do, what kind of help do they need and what are they maybe doing and all that. So it's nice to just have that time to recoup.
Yeah, and we call that respite care. A lot of people are not familiar with that term, but it's a respite care. It's time to, like you said, rejuvenate, take a break, take care of yourself, have your loved one be taken care of while you can take care of yourself. Because we always say caregivers need to take care of themselves so they'll be in the best way possible, there for their loved one. And
Definitely.
it also sounds like, as far as timing, that adult day care center is sort of a la carte, meaning you mentioned you could come 10 days for one day, maybe you could come a half a day, maybe you could come 2 days a week or three half days. So it's really something, it sounds like, that can meet anybody's schedule, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And that's the one of the best things about it. Like a lot of caregivers aren't ready to let them go somewhere permanently full time 24-hour 7 because they want to be with them. They still want to enjoy their time, the moments, the good moments that they have. Or sometimes it's just a financial decision. You can't afford that full time care at the time. You're so I feel like the break that you get and the coming to a day program, you get to decide what your need is as a caregiver. And oftentimes it turns into more. So oftentimes people will like, well, I just need a day or two, so I'm going to start Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then over time, they're like, I just want to add one more day. And then as the caregiving becomes more challenging, which we know it's going to over time, pretty much in most cases, that's where they'll increase the days and the times. And some people, you don't get up at 7:30 in the morning. Some people don't roll out of bed until 10. So getting here at 11 is convenient. And sometimes people are up at 3 in the morning and already dressed and ready to go. So 7:30 is a perfect time to drop them off at an adult daycare. It's
that's good.
very
Yeah, very good to have flexibility, right? Because caregivers need that flexibility because you never know how your day is going to start. So
Definitely.
we're talking about dropping off our loved one and placing them in a strange place with strange people that we don't know, that they don't know. So someone who might be thinking about this but might be a little nervous about it because they don't know, about the people and the place, leads me to ask you, how are adult day centers regulated? Do they have to answer to anyone?
So through the Agency for Healthcare Administration, they're the ones that oversee adult daycare, and that's who we're regulated under.
Okay.
And they
And
come out. They come out every 2 years, and they do their full inspection. And then, of course, we're also regulated by anybody, any payment source, anybody who pays us. So the Medicaid long-term managed care programs or the adult care food program, we have regulations through all of them. So they're constantly auditing, either paper auditing or coming to a visit to go through the program as well.
Okay, good. So that would satisfy that question if anybody wondered about that. And thank you for that answer. So let's get into some of the programming that you offer. Someone comes into the center. Can you describe some of the different programming that you offer and how that programming would benefit them?
Sure. So the typical day, and this isn't just our day program, a lot of day programs kind of have a typical flow to them. Maybe the programming is different, but the kind of day flows quite similarly. So they're going to come in the morning, and they're going to have coffee and maybe some snack, and maybe they're socializing. So we kind of coffee clatch. So we're talking, and just that's kind of the morning as people are slowly coming in. And then at some point in the morning, whether it's 9 or 9:30 or 10 o'clock, we're starting the program, which will be a variety of activities. We now always start with exercise. We flipped it a little bit, but there's always an exercise program. The exercise lasts about a half hour, 40 minutes sometimes, and it's a sitting exercise program. So, and it always ends with a glass of water. We also do a lot of introductions. So we're going to start the day. We're going to talk about the weather. We're going to talk about the food. We're going to talk about, we might do a word of the day and then break into a little word from a word program. And then we do a question of the day. And it could be like, you want to go anywhere in the world, where would it be and why? Just to get conversation going, hear some jokes, and people just laugh back and forth and talk about where they've been, and there's some camaraderie there. Then we move on to the programming. It's everything. It's trivia. It's word games. It's music, live. Well, before COVID, it used to be live entertainment. Now it's just us singing, unfortunately, but we're singing. We try to have parties. We used to have lots of parties. Now we have less. But we're doing a lot of fun, exciting events as much as possible. There's some education. We do some spiritual programming. There is just a wide variety. And the nice thing is that we get to pull from what people want. So we hear from people, we know what they like and they don't like. So we have a woman who just loves flowers. Well, the flowers that get donated to the church for service, as you said, we're owned and operated by Faith Lutheran Church. We'll bring them over and we do flower arranging. So everybody has their vase, we have their individual flowers, we do crafts, all types of different programs. So that's the nice thing, is the thing, like in some, it's hard for a caregiver to go into someone's house and be Julie McCoy and just kind of keep everything going and have all the activities all day long. But when you're here, it's one program after another. There's no downtime. And they're all different, geared towards different people who are coming to try to help benefit them, bring out what we can in them, get there to be as much socialization as possible and engagement.
So it sounds like there's something for everyone.
There is. I mean, is every moment of every day going to be exciting for every person in the room? No, but it goes from one thing to another. So there'll be a half-hour program here, and then a 45-minute program here. There's a wonderful lunch at noontime, which we lunch at an adult daycare is like the big meal of the day, probably similar to like an assisted living or a nursing home does, where they have the protein and the big meal. So today we actually had ziti and meatballs, and we had broccoli, and we had a piece of bread and a milk and a piece of fruit. So it's a big meal at noontime. And then listen, we play bingo every day because the population just demands it. And a lot of people like bingo. And if people who don't like bingo at that time will often do some coloring program, the adult coloring, or something more individual for a little bit while other people are playing bingo. But almost everybody plays. And
Who doesn't like bingo?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you get prizes. And at New Day, the other thing, every program is different. Our program, we have two sides. So the other thing that we offer here is the Integrated Memory Enhancement Program. So that's a program that is everything I just told you happens on one side of the program. And then the other side of the program is the Integrated Memory Enhancement, which is for people who have cognitive changes, are aware of it, and want to work on it. So it's all types of brain games throughout the entire day with a little bit of exercise and some relaxation program and lunch and a refreshment. But other than that, it's all types of different types of brain games. So there's a lot of options. And the nice thing about having both of those things happening here is it's the right fit for the right person at the right time. And sometimes it
That's
changes, but either way, we just want people to feel happy and get what they want from the program to the best of our ability.
Okay.
And all day
So
programs
people,
like that.
right. So people that have been diagnosed with some form of dementia, they would benefit from some of these activities also for the stimulation, the socialization, which is probably the two biggest things that are going to benefit anybody, whether you're an elderly adult or an elderly adult with some form of dementia. And
Correct.
it is something that I know that I've always encouraged caregivers to take advantage of if they just weren't quite ready for memory care assisted living. It's like you said, it's a great segue from home to another type of home, which would be an assisted living for memory care, because of the fact that very similar. They're in a different location. They're away from the caregiver. They have
Right.
structured programming. They have their meals there. And you can see where it's almost exactly like going to a memory care assisted living, except that you don't spend the night and you go back home after the
Right.
programming is over. And so
Right.
a lot of caregivers start that way. And then when they go to memory care assisted living, they say, "Oh, this is the other daycare, and this one you get
Right.
to spend the night," and it
Right.
can be a nice segue to that. Which is
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to ask you is, how have you seen caregivers approach the idea of daycare to their loved one? Because you mentioned a minute ago that it's not always like smooth sailing the first few days. So I know that you've talked with hundreds and hundreds of caregivers about
Oh, yeah.
this particular situation. So how
Yes.
is the approach best handled when a caregiver is talking to their loved one about coming to an adult day center?
First, don't say adult daycare center because I mean, honestly, I can see that if you ask anyone, any person, do you want to go to an adult daycare? No. So, but mostly I'll say, so we call it the club, or we tell them we found a place for them to work on their memory. Because some people want, you got to find the reason for the individual. That's what I'm trying to say. So for some people, they are where they have the memory changes, but they don't need to go to an adult daycare. But what they do need is to go to a program that works on that, to try to help them so they can see. So talking to that person is talking about helping yourself. Let's try, the doctor recommended that you try this for a month. Usually you don't need a month, you need a day or two, and they're happy. Now, women are a whole other story because we're social beings to start with. So usually they walk in, they're going to participate, they get involved right away, and we're good. Men are the ones that tend to have a little bit more reluctance to walk into any social setting like this, or any social setting, any club or anything. So you can, sometimes we tell people they should just say, if it's a husband and wife and they have a fantastic relationship and the husband just adores the wife, we just say, tell them, just do it for me. Do it for me for a month. When people have an end time, they never remember the end time, nor do they really end up caring about the end time whatsoever. As long as they don't feel like they're stuck with it forever, then they can feel like, I'll do it. All right, I'll try for you. There are people here who come to think this is their job. So they come here. We have a gentleman right now who has taken over an entire activity room with it for work, and he gets prepared all morning and he does a presentation. And you got to get to the root of the person, what gives them purpose. We've had people come in, if they're the volunteer type, they're coming to volunteer then. I have had situations where, like, the family said he was very physical and not like a physical person, like he likes to move and walk around and all that. That's what I mean. And he likes to volunteer. This first day, I took all the books off my bookshelf in the library, and we walked in and I said, we're so happy you're here. I'm going to have a volunteer application ready, and then we're going to go and we're going to show you and what you're going to do today. And we're so happy we're able to come. And he said, who told you I wanted to volunteer? I'm retired. So you never know what's going to work. Shift gears. So it just has to resonate to that person in some way. And, some people even get to the point where it's, Mom, you're either going to do this or I can't keep you at home with me anymore. That conversation's a lot harder, and that's a kind of a last resort step. But you just got to know the person, and we of course don't know the person, so we give all the thoughts and options to the loved one who's bringing here before they come, so that I ask them to please tell me what you told them, so that they walk in the door, I'm able to say the same thing and say, yeah. And sometimes
you want to know.
I just want to know
what their story is.
Yeah, what their story, what worked, what made them feel good. But we give a lot of choices around that. And like I said, most we almost have nobody that just doesn't work out. Most of the people, once they come, it takes a few days to feel comfortable, or they walk in and they feel quite happy on that very first day.
That sounds
great. I'm sure in assisted living that you see the same type of pattern.
Yep. Some people take to it like a duck to water, and other people have to ease into it a little bit. And everybody's different, and that's okay. But I love that you go along with the story, as do we. Whatever their story is, whatever's going to make them feel good about being there. I love that the staff goes along with the story. We do the same thing, and it just really goes a long way to make them feel comfortable. So thank you for sharing.
Who came in, who wanted to volunteer, and we say, and I usually tell them, okay, for the first day, I just want you to observe, and then we'll figure out what the best role is after your first day, there's almost never a conversation about volunteering again,
Okay.
because they were there, they sat in it, they watched, and then it's kind of over. They just come the next time they come, and they're happy to do
Okay.
so.
Sounds good. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have a caregiver be joining us and talk about her experiences with her significant other at an adult day center. So we'll hear from her in just a moment, and we'll be giving away a free book too. So get a pen and pencil and paper, and you'll want to write this down. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
I'm back, and at this time, I would like to thank Arden Courts Memory Care Community for sponsoring the Caregiver Solution Info Show. Arden Courts is a leader when it comes to memory care assisted living. They have about 50 communities all across the United States, and actually 10 of them are here in Florida. Arden Courts is a great resource for you as a caregiver, so they help you as well as taking care of your loved one with memory loss. Today, they'd like to offer you this free book. It's called The 36-Hour Day. It's a wonderful resource for caregivers. It's written by Dr. Peter Ravens and Nancy Mace, and it continually becomes updated with new information. It has great definitions, a lot of scenarios you can learn from, a lot of tips, and a lot of explanation. So if you're a caregiver and you're caring for someone with memory loss, this is a wonderful resource. And today, just because you've tuned into this program, it's absolutely free. All you have to do is send an email with your name, address, and telephone number to delray at arden-courts.com. Tell them that you heard about the free offer on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they'll send a book, The 36-Hour Day, right to your door. So again, send your email to Delray, D-E-L-R-A-Y, at Arden, A-R-D-E-N, -courts, COURTS.com. Don't hesitate. Get this book. I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful resource for caregivers. So today we're talking about adult daycare centers and what an adult daycare center can do for you. And it is something that a lot of caregivers have taken advantage of through their caregiving journey, and they have stories to tell. And today I'm so happy to welcome one of those caregivers. Her name is Pat Doyle. She's a former caregiver for her significant other, and I'm so glad that you're here, Pat. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marcia. Happy to be here. Thanks for getting this format together for us.
Well, you have been an awesome caregiver. I've known you also for several years, and you just really make caregiving something to aspire to with the way that you were involved, the way that you educated yourself, the way that you just wanted the best for your significant other. So why don't you tell me why you ended up having to investigate day center for your significant other? What led up to that?
Well, Jerry is a retired New York City fireman, and was very much of a social butterfly, always doing things, golf and going to the pool and plants and, all those things that, cooking and laundry and doing things at home. And we've been on this treadmill for about 11 years now. And he was really spending a lot of time at home, not going to this pool. And I think he didn't go to the pool because he didn't remember people's names anymore. And that was difficult. And I started to realize that things were changing. And I went to some support groups, and I got involved every Friday in a support group for frontal temporal dementia. And it was because I was working at home. And so I didn't have that need of having to go somewhere, but I realized that there were, that he needed more attention. And I started to go to this FTD support group, and I went every Friday loyally and learned an enormous amount of information about this dreaded disease. And then I learned about the I guess I'd call them workshops or seminars that were being hosted in Palm Beach County, and I went to those. And I saw a table there for this place called New Day in North Palm, and I had heard about it from someone else, and I thought, I need to check this out. So after a while again, I contacted Julie at New Day. And she said, sure, come on in and talk to me. And I went in and we had a great conversation. I liked the place immediately. And I said, this guy is going to be really difficult. He's not going to be that agreeable to go to this program. And Julie and I came up with this creative thing where I said, all right, we're going to call it a class. And I learned in the FTD program that it was okay to have this thing called fiblets. And that meant that I could kind of stretch the truth, put a little elasticity in the truth, and use that to get some of the things I was trying to accomplish with him. And so after that meeting with Julie, I was really apprehensive, but I said, all right, let me go for it. So I went home and I said to him, listen, you have told your memory isn't as good as it used to be, and I was able to get you qualified for a program here in Palm Beach County that is paid for by the Palm Beach County because you're a resident, and that you can go to this program 2 days a week, and they work on your memory, and it's a class. So, I signed you up for 2 days a week, and we'll give it a try and see how it works and if your memory improves and all that. So he somehow, by, I don't know, grace of God or whatever, he agreed. And what attracted me to this program at New Day was the fact that it was essentially church-based, and Julie had given me all the paperwork, and I read it. And we're not super religious people, but it was important for me to have some kind of a connection for him. And it has just been a wonderful experience. He attended New Day for just under 2.5 years, I'd say. Then pandemic came, and that kind of changed some of the dynamics. It was in 3 years. But anyway, we went from 2 days a week to 3 days, and I was still working. So it was drop him off in the morning. I never had a had time getting him out of bed. We structured the, getting ready thing where, his clothes were ready. I lowered my standards to showering twice a week, which, that was me. I just wasn't going to go for the fight more than that. And so we try to go to church on Sunday, and then it would be Sunday and Wednesday that we do the showers. And, and it worked out great. And, he was stimulated enough here. He would tell the women what to do and how to do it and do this better and that better. And, I can't say he actually made friends. He was more friendly with the staff than he was with buddying up with anybody. But that was just my experience with it, that it was an absolute home run for us. And, Julie and her staff have been support for me, even though he hasn't been here in quite some time. And, I would talk to Julie about, well, what do you think? What do you think it's time that we make another change? And this happened. And, I had an aggressive incident a while ago, and which catapulted me into, having him in a respite program, which about for, I think it was 10 days or so. And it made a world of difference for me that Arden Court was available as a respite center for me, and I used Arden Court twice, and now he is a full timer at Arden Court. And so we do have those transitions that we have to make, and maybe the transition was harder for me than for him, but nevertheless.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. I know it's never easy to recount, the journey, but it is such a great comfort to other caregivers that you did it and he did it and it helped him and it helped you and it gave you some respite. It gave you a little peace of mind knowing that he was okay where he was and you could still do your thing. And he was probably feeling a little bit more independent because he was away from you and he went to his own class, as you called it. I like that. That's a great way to describe it. And he took to it. So in that way, it was fortunate, for both of you. And so what word of advice would you give to caregivers that are caring for someone at home and they just feel like they maybe can't do it anymore, or they're too tired, they get exasperated, maybe they don't have time for themselves? How would you help them if you could just tell them anything that you wanted to say?
Well, I would first do. I would first encourage anyone to investigate the support groups that are all around this area. I mean, really, I think we're very, very fortunate here in Palm Beach County in Southern Florida because of our population that we do have a lot of availability of learning about this dreaded disease. And then to try different things. We did a lot of I did a lot of things at home with him, and he did like music, and he did watch television and the football games, and he did take care of the plants, and there were many things he did at home. But then it started to dissipate. It started to really quiet down, and there was less and less of even watching football. He was a big college football fan, and that just kind of dried up. And so, it's important for them to be for anybody to be stimulated and to have something to do. And he was always he always read the paper, and he wasn't doing that anymore. And fortunately, on a certain level, he was never on a computer person. He never was interested in that. So things that I've been able to do for myself, now that he's not home, and take classes online and that kind of stuff, it wouldn't have worked for him because he wasn't ever interested in that. So being with people and being able to just kind of be himself, and these people in these daycare places, in particular New Day, really accepted him for what he was. They knew his buttons, and they knew how to dissipate a situation where he was going to rage at someone, and that takes skill and training, and they were able to manifest that when it was needed. And and then I get a phone call every once in a while. Well, we had a little thing today. Oh geez. But it all worked out, and they were tolerant, and I have to say, I do think once he was here, he was fine. Once he was we got here and he was among his people, I think he did very well. And I still attend Julie's support groups as best I can. And that's once a month. And then the other support group that I was doing for FTD, which wasn't what he had, but it just worked for me. And I don't attend that anymore because they moved out of the location they were doing it at the Alzheimer's Community Care place in 45th Street. And so it was not convenient for me any longer because at that point I still was working. But nevertheless, I felt continuing to learn and educate myself on what's coming. And, and that I'm grateful for and I have a wonderful support network of family and friends that are always there for me and listening to me. And now I have professional people listen to me. So
And that's what you need. You need to surround yourself with people that can, you know, listen, but also give great advice with what you don't know and what you might need to know. So I think that's awesome. And I want to thank you for sharing that story. I'm sure it was, a blessing to a lot of people. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be with Pat, and Julie's coming back from New Day Adult Care Center to answer a few more questions. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a minute.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Well, welcome back to the Caregiver Solution Info Show. My guest today is Julie from the New Day Adult Care Center in North Palm Beach, Florida. And we also have been enjoying the story from Pat Doyle, who's a caregiver for her significant other who tried adult center for her significant other and found it to be quite a blessing for her and for her significant other, because it just provided everything that she needed to keep strong and keep going forward and moving forward, and finding that that was another resource in her caregiving journey. So I'm glad both of you are here. I am curious, Julie, we've been talking about people coming into the day center and all of that, but is there a point where you might not accept someone that might apply to be part of the center? Or if someone is a part of the center and they've been there for a long time, does it ever come to a point where they're no longer appropriate? And if you could tell us why.
Sure. So for on the physical aspect of it, if you have to be able to stand, turn, and pivot with one person assisting for the bathroom. Now, we have gone through periods of time where we used to be able to do two-person assist at our day program, but now with COVID and staffing and how the program is so spread out now, it's becoming a little bit more challenging. So for us, and for probably most day programs, they'll do one person assist. So that is important. We need them to be able to use the bathroom safely, and safe for us and safe for them. The behavioral piece, there are times when you have to do one-on-ones with people, and that is expected. When it becomes a danger to themselves or others, that is where the line is for us. And that doesn't mean you're discharged. That might mean, hey, let's look at some maybe medication if that is what's warranted. Let's check to make sure there's no infection happening. Let's try to figure out the whole picture of what's happening and see if we can come up with another way to have them work out. But essentially, if that does not happen, we can't have somebody here who's putting somebody else at risk. And the other thing is that because there's no bedroom to go to, we're an adult daycare, so we have a few rooms. The one thing about New Day that is that I really like is that we have a lot of different rooms. So we have a library, and we have a small activity room, and we have a large activity room that's across the hall, and we have a dining area. So there are opportunities to move about and change your environment. But the struggle with that with still becomes if you're running an activity and someone is continually changing that entire activity for everybody in the room. So if we can, they cannot be that need that one-on-one and take away from the entire program. However, that being said, we are lucky because we have a lot of adult daycares are one room. We are lucky because we have, hey, let's come with me. Let's go hang out in the library for a little bit to redirect and try something different.
Right. Well, that's great because obviously people that are disruptive maybe become verbally or physically disruptive. They become agitated or aggressive. You have to handle all those situations, and
We
and
do.
you have to be able to keep everybody safe and calm. And I think it's great that you work, with the physicians and with the family caregiver to try to make it a success because obviously that's what you want. So if someone's considering something like this, maybe they don't live in the area where you service, what should they look for? If they could be out of state, another part of Florida, what are some of the top things that someone should look for when choosing an adult care center?
So I just want to say I've been working with an adult daycare since 1991. So every experience I have had in going to all day programs across the country, I've been to many across the country. The thing I love about adult daycare is they have the right staff. They just have that spirit about them. So and everybody's in it because they want to be in it. Because believe me, nobody's getting paid in adult daycare well. So they're doing it because they want to be there and they want to help people and make a difference. So it's just to me, you have every environment is different for the person. So the things that you want to know about is how long have they been open? How long has the staff been there? Because turnover is no good for anyone, for not the participant, not the employees. It's very hard. So you want to make sure there's consistency there. You want to make sure that the activities, you want to find out about the activities and make sure that it's something that your loved one could have any interest in participating in. Some programs are more there's one local program that does a lot of arts and crafts. We do almost none. So if you're a man looking for a program, you do not want to probably don't want to go to a program that is very geared towards arts and crafts. So, knowing what the person may like and seeing that there's activity programs that would meet that. Nursing is important. Some places don't have, some day programs don't have nurses. To me, I can't even imagine having an adult daycare without a nurse. I feel like that is an important component for just anything. Their eyes don't look right. The rash doesn't look right. That just to see things and catch things, blood pressures, and to have recommended to call the doctor and call the families and have that connection. So I feel like having a nurse there, maybe not all day, it doesn't have to be, but just to have that presence to know them is very important. And you just want it to feel homey. You want it to feel comfortable. You want to feel like you can envision your loved one in that place with the people that are there.
Safe.
And
Yeah,
safe,
absolutely.
yes. I mean,
I know.
there are some, go ahead, sorry.
No, that's okay. I know Pat, she went and obviously she found what she was looking for her Jerry. And I wanted to ask you, Pat, what was Jerry's favorite activity there? Because Julie's talking about finding activities that men would like. What did Jerry love about the adult day center?
He loved the music and he loved dancing, and he grabbed whoever he could of the staff. That's why I was saying about how much fun he had with the staff. And I'd come in to collect him, and there he would be dancing with one of the women that works here. So yeah, the music was lovely, and he enjoyed that. So
Wonderful. So, see, there you go. Perfect match. And he had a good time and remembered his dance steps, obviously. So, Julie, if someone's hearing this program today and they're interested, either specifically to contact you about New Day, or maybe have some other questions that you could perhaps answer for them, could they contact you?
Oh, definitely. You can call me. The work number here is 561-844-0012. And I don't care if you're not interested in my program. Any questions about adult daycare, I can certainly help with and guide you towards the right thing for you.
Okay, and give that number again. I know you're located in North Palm Beach, Florida. What's that telephone number again?
561-844-0012.
Awesome. I want to thank you both so much for being on the show tonight. It was lovely to see both of you, Julie, Pat. Best of luck to both of you as you continue your best efforts to help caregivers and to be a caregiver. You both are doing wonderful, wonderful work, and I wish you all the best. I want to thank our listeners tonight, too, for tuning in. Every Tuesday, 6 to 7 p.m., we have another Caregiver Solution Info show. You can catch us on the live stream at caregiversolutions.info. You can catch us on iHeartRadio under WNN, and you can also catch us on local Southeast Florida Radio, 1470 AM, 96.9 FM. So thank you again, ladies. It was great to see you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye, Marcia.
Bye, Marcia.
Bye. And you all have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.